And we'll talk a little bit too about at the end of this, how the referral process has changed. And I think that's the biggest thing we're seeing at Satisfied Patient is the change in the referral process. Chris, what happens when you are doing your research? You're looking at these providers, or you're looking at a practice online. What happens when you see a 1-star review?
I tend to look into it a bit more and see the reasons for a 1-star, obviously. And I check to see if there's also positive reviews as well, to see if that might be an outlier, for example.
Yeah. What type of impression would it give you if the practice had a 1-star review, but they didn't respond to it?
Yeah, that to me, I think is important, because even actually, relatively speaking, one of my family members, they own a pizza restaurant, for example, kind of a different example, but they follow up with every one of the bad reviews, and they want to rectify the situation. So I just think it's good practice to follow up on those 1-stars and make sure that, patients know that their care is important, and practices want to improve their performance as well.
That's right. A single negative review can drive 22% of patients away. And I think even more powerful is just the response. And we help a lot of our clients, and shared clients together in crafting those responses, right? I don't care if you have our service or you have someone else's service. At the end of the day, someone's probably going to ding you online. And you need that expert, and you need that person who knows how to respond, what to say in that response to help you out in that. And, that's kind of one of the big things, right? Because if you're at this practice, you're potentially going there, you're going to see this provider. What if something does go wrong? How are they going to react? How are they going to, do they care? And so a lot of it, a little bit is it perception, sometimes unfortunately equals reality. And in terms of the new patient increase, very, very simple, very trackable, very measurable. But as, patients are being referred to practices, they're now relying upon that online review, even after the human referral aspect from the physician coordinator and or the friend or family member, which we'll talk about at the end here. Go ahead and jump to the next slide for me, please. How patients are searching online and how Google search works. Google's the 800-pound gorilla here. So they're controlling more than 92% of the search engine market. That's 72% of people searching on a desktop or laptop, and 92% of people on mobile devices. Chris, what type of mobile device do you have?
I've got an Android.
Okay, cool. Yep. So you got an Android phone. Android phones, again, Google owns that operating system, and they build that operating system. And it's 133 million people in the United States have an Android phone, just like Chris. So think about that. Google's preloaded on there. And that's, we're not even talking about all the people with iPhones who have Google Chrome loaded on there to do search. It's right there in our pocket, and we pull it out, we do the search, and we're searching for, best ophthalmologist, best dermatologist, and near me continues to be a huge search component, and something that's very important. So how your reviews and your online reputation, it directly impacts your visibility and your search engine optimization. I want to share just kind of how search works. It's really kind of break it down to kind of the bare bones here. But basically what has happened is Google has indexed the entire internet, and they've created a library, and they've indexed everything. And then they rank those results based on what's relevant. And there's hundreds of factors that go into that. But one of those things being your online reputation, your online reviews, locations, keywords, links, freshness. And as a result of all of those factors, then that's how they serve up what those search engine rankings are for you. Obviously, there's paid spots on top, and then we get to the organic listings down below. But go ahead, Chris, go to the next slide. Let's talk a little bit about the Google Business Profile. One of the free marketing tools, one of the most powerful marketing tools there are, your Google Business Profile. Chris, what would you do if you saw this practice at 3.9 with 34 reviews?
Yeah, it looks a bit suspect to say the least. And I think just looking at just the type of reviews as well, it looks a little concerning there.
Yeah, I like to sort them by the negative. So what I
Mm.
like to do is I like to go in here, I like to click on the 34 reviews, and then I like to sort them by negative, and then read through the negative ones, you know, to
Yeah.
see, you know, one, has there been a response? Two, what is said? Three, what are the top issues? And again, you know, I'm a nerd when it comes to that kind of stuff, but yeah, not looking so hot here. And this is what is seen online, right? So your Google business profile, Google, again, 800-pound gorilla, they have preferential treatment. When you're searching on Google, they're going to serve you their own stuff, right? Makes sense. So they're going to serve it, and they're going to see the online ratings and reviews. Go to the next slide for me, Chris. You know, here's a couple of shared clients that we have with Satisfied Patient and Vital Interaction. We have Sabatez Eye Centers on the left here. You know, very highly rated practice, 4.9, 704 reviews. And then we have Dr. Lamb. Dr. Lamb is at DuPage Ophthalmology, a couple ophthalmic examples here. But, you know, there's a key piece here. There's more than just location reviews. And again, it depends on your business objective. But there's an opportunity in the marketplace right now to also do doctor reviews. And so think about it in terms of adding another listing, right? So let's go back to the yellow pages, you know, where there's a lot of listings out there. So in addition to having your location listing, you can also have your doctor listings, and you can drive reviews to those. So a great way with automation to push out those review requests automatically through Satisfied Patient, through Vital Interaction, and then delivering great results. And I mean, Chris, it's a no-brainer, right? I mean, you're comparing a 4.9 base practice to 3.8. I mean, which one are you going to go into?
Yeah, and not only that, the amount of reviews too. I think 4.9 with 704 reviews, that's awesome. So it's obviously they're doing a lot of outreach through the automation platform to drive up those reviews. Yeah,
100%. Chris, go to the next slide for me. You know, one of the things that I love is, you know, trackable metrics, and you guys track a lot of stuff at Vital Interaction as well as we do at Satisfied Patient. And, you know, it's one of those things, you know, we have clients that, you know, sometimes say, hey, you know, does this really work? And it does. And does it really drive new patients in? And, you know, I don't want them to think, you know, it's just, you know, Chris and Ryan here, you know, telling everyone this works. I mean, this is real examples right here that this works. And, you know, these are real reviews from real patients, from real practices. And you'll see there that first one, I chose Dr. Wood by reviews. And so this is a patient who's come into a practice, had a great experience, and then left and written a review and said, hey, this is how I found this location. So they're so transformational, you know, and I would even say, you know, any negative reviews, obviously, you know, the learning you can gather from those. And again, you know, with Satisfied Patient, our service, you know, gets you a lot of feedback internally. So it's not a negative review online, and it helps you, you know, make those changes and those adjustments inside your practice that are needed. So again, some great examples of patients writing reviews saying, I came here as a result of the reviews. And that's something you just continue to see over time as you use a platform or service like us. Yeah, that's going to make me want to go to that office. Yeah, I mean, it's right there, and it's very clear. I picked him from the reviews based on the internet. You know, that's what that last one says there. Yeah. And again, that's a 100% referral based practice, which we're going to talk about next. You'll see that last example there. Again, 100% referrals. That's where they're getting all their patients, and that process has really changed. Let's go to the next slide. You know, the patient referral process used to be the top path moving left to right, where patients would go into a provider, and this is just a generic example here, where you go into your primary care provider, for example, and then you're referred out to a specialist. And those days, you know, it still exists, but it's rare. And the process has changed, and there's a new patient referral process, and Google has inserted themselves in it. And I think about, my wife's a great example, right? So she went into a specialist, and she was referred out, and we got the referral. And the first thing she did was she went online to check, what the review said. And then she went back to the referring provider and said, hey, I don't think I'm going to go here because of what I've read online. And by the way, have you seen what the reviews say of where you're referring me to? And the referring, the referral coordinator was like, actually, no, I've not looked at, that's just where we send everybody. And so then it gets your referral sources thinking about, should I continue to send them there? Based on your online reputation alone. So, that bottom path, right, is, even patients now, before they get a friend or family referral, they're doing some type of search, whether it's mobile, whether it's desktop. And then ultimately they're finding a provider, they're going into the provider. And then if there's a secondary, referral, like in my wife's example, that's real. And that's the biggest thing we are seeing right now is the referring provider is being impacted by online reviews more so now than ever before.
Absolutely.
Yep. Chris, go to the next slide for me. I think obviously kind of just to wrap this up as we transition in the automation piece, which, I'm excited to talk about, Chris. I mean, with what you guys do, from an appointment cancellation perspective, an automation perspective, and automating all those tasks, with your automation connecting into the practice management systems, it's a beautiful thing. But ultimately, you can stop losing your patients on Google, kind of with this combined solution here. You can avoid the negative reviews. You can reduce your at-risk revenue, start retaining those existing patients, and taking control of your online reputation for your practice, and then also for your doctors, like we talked about. Chris, let's jump into the automation. I'm excited to talk about this piece. Yeah, please share, please.
Yeah, and I'll preface this by the word automation can be quite scary sometimes. And I think with VI, what we like to essentially do is mimic the practice management system, get that data, and then see what automation we can help doctors' offices achieve instead. And it saves a lot of time. And so if we imagine you have a list of patients that you need to send a message to, how is that done? How are you targeting those patients? What is it, a spreadsheet? Are you keeping lists in your head, for example? We've actually heard that on a recent survey. And so just imagine where Vital Interaction comes in is you have your practice management system, a list of appointments, and let's say there's a group of patients that showed up to an appointment, and then you want to reach out to them the very next day or that day with a message to say, thank you for visiting our office, please take a moment to review. And I think that's key because these are all accurate, kept appointments, and it's done in a cadence specific to you. So, and then you can drill into, let's say you want to target certain appointment types. Is it post-surgery that you want to target? Is it a certain doctor or an office that you want to drive up the reputation of? So I think creating a target list of audience and then the ability to automate that on a daily or even hourly basis becomes pretty important. And it's almost a stress reliever to not have to reach out to those patients after their appointment as well. So is that something that, Ryan, in your experience, after you leave a doctor's appointment, do you get a chance to review?
Yeah, I mean, look, you hit the nail on the head. I mean, the automation is critical to the entire process. I think for, our webinar audience, right, one of the other things, that I would add on to what you say is, we take care of all this for them, right? So,
yeah.
Working with them, and I think it's, and again, the term set it and forget it is used a lot, I think, in this space. But if you don't have experts like you and I set this up, then there's challenges. And, so that's the one thing I would add is, there's a lot of targeting that can be done, but at the end of the day, it's very easy to set up. We do this with hundreds of practices all over the United States. You know, the funny thing, Chris, we just recently had a client sign up in a town in Tennessee. And throughout that onboarding process, you know, they mentioned that there was someone in the back room of their practice who is making phone calls. Okay. And by the way, this is 5 doctors, and they do a manual appointment phone call. So they literally, they call them, you know, day before. And so I felt so bad for this individual who's in this room making these phone calls, because you guys can automate that entire process for them, right? So you guys can automate, you know, a pre-recorded message, you know, and again, this isn't, you know, I've come kind of getting off the off topic here, but this is just another benefit of the automation component, you know, automating a voicemail blast that gets that patient in there, that automates that. And I was thinking, like, what happens when that person doesn't reach the patient for their automated phone call, or for the, you know, the manual aspect of that, right?
Yeah, it gets tricky and obviously time consuming and stressful. So I think what we like to do is complete the loop of the patient journey. For example, patient has an appointment, we remind the patient of the appointment. And then after the appointment, what happens? Say, thank you for your visit. Please take a moment to review. And then there's also the element of loss to follow-up patients as well, to where it's one thing keeping patients, but how about retaining patients? So how do you know what patients haven't been seen, for example, for an eye exam in 1 year? How do you track those patients, and how do you let them know that their eye care is important to you and come back to see your office? So it's almost recapturing those patients, scheduling those appointments, increasing patient retention and patient volume, and then also by virtue, improve the reputation of the practice as well.
Yep, absolutely. Absolutely.
And, you know, moving on to survey fatigue, I mean, recently I've had an experience where I've just been bombarded with emails after an appointment or text messages, and it can get quite a lot, honestly. And so there's a fine line between it being too much and too little. And I think with the automation piece, setting up that specific cadence after the appointment, for example, is it, if the patient has 5 appointments in 1 month, do you want to send it after every appointment? Or is it just the first appointment of that month? Same on a weekly basis. So I think that's one of the benefits of the automated system, is setting up the cadence that's right for you and being able easily to be able to adjust that cadence as well. I think that's becoming quite important too.
Yeah, I mean, you know, again, I keep going kind of into, you know, your guys' core services, because we share so many clients and there's so many just amazing use cases. You know, we just had one the other day where, you know, there was inclement weather, right?
Yeah.
And, you know, with one click of a button via Vital Interaction, you're able to reschedule, you know, all those appointments. I mean, it's pretty impressive what you guys can do.
Yeah, that's a good feature, because you know, the weather can be a bit crazy this time of year, even in Texas where I am. And just having that peace of mind that you can log in and let patients know due to weather, the appointment's cancelled. And I would imagine having to wake up at 6 a.m. calling all those patients myself would be quite the undertaking. So, yeah, for sure. So, but yeah, I think when we talk about fatigue, I think that goes along with appointment reminders, reactivations, and things like that. And so being able to set that cadence and adjust it is very important. And some of the case studies we've done tells us the sort of sweet spot in what's too much and what isn't as well.
Oh yeah, I think that's the beautiful thing about it too. I mean, you know, we always tell our clients, hey, you know, you don't have access to the other clients' data, but we have access to it. So in terms of best practices, right? I mean, I think that's another benefit, right? So you use the data to make the best practices in terms of the patient journey, you know, when to be communicated to, what's the best practice, you know, on the front end, prior to the appointment, leaving the appointment. You know, I was having again, another conversation with one of our shared clients, and, you know, they have a new patient email, right? So it's a customized new patient, setting those expectations, which ties right into satisfied patient and what we do with the survey at the end. But these new patients get a what to expect email, right, from Vital Interaction. So setting that expectation, so then when we survey them at the end of the process after their visit, they know, they know we know the hot buttons, right? We have the data. We know, based on the practice, what the hot buttons are. So we're able to, customize that new patient expectation email that then sent out by Vital Interaction. So anyway, point of that being, there's a lot of benefits, Chris. I love to talk about this stuff. Let's go to the next slide.
Yeah, and speaking of delivery method and going back to what you mentioned, I think that becomes important too, with the assumption that we have the patient contact details loaded into VI. We'll know if the patient has a text message available or a cell phone. And if that cell phone fails for some reason, maybe it's an incorrect contact detail, then we'll try a backup method through email as well. So it's guaranteeing that the patient is outreached and accurately too. And then we're working with a lot of customers that if there is incorrect contact details, there's a list of those patients to look at to double check with your EMR to make sure that you actually have accurate information. And you'd be amazed how many emails are just entered incorrectly or filled empty. And I think we discussed that previously, Ryan.
Yeah, or phone numbers, right? I mean, the same thing, right? So, typing, there's some user error on both ends, whether you're using the kiosk to input your data on the front end in the check-in process or paper and it's being re-entered. I think, again, another benefit is, the back end kind of data check that, our systems have the ability to do. So, delivering the right message to the right person, right patient at the right time is obviously something Vital Interaction and Satisfied Patient can help you do, and ultimately, grow your business and really kind of make lives easier. I think that's the one thing that, a lot of practices that we work with together, kind of say after the fact, you don't really realize it at first, but, that one thing takes, next thing you know, it's 30, 40 minutes later, where a lot of that could be automated.
Yeah, it's funny. And just to touch on delivery method briefly, where we've run a few case studies of personalization of messages as well, such as, what's the effect of the actual doctor recording the message before or after the appointment? And we found that when patients hear the doctor's actual voice in the message, it increases the likelihood of patients answering by 3 times more likely. So it's definitely delivery method and personalization that's becoming important this day and age.
Yeah, absolutely. It's awesome. Well, Chris, I'd love to, open it up for questions. Obviously, I could talk to you forever about this stuff. It makes me excited, and we love to help practices here. So anyone that's participating in the webinar today, if you have a question, just kind of drop it in the chat. And I'll start, Chris. Just a quick question for you. What's kind of one thing that, what's kind of one new thing you're working on that you're finding, very, very helpful and beneficial to practices?
One thing that we're doing with many practices is embedding videos in emails. That we're doing a couple of case studies with some practices where maybe it's before cataract surgery, slightly off topic, but I just want to highlight that maybe it's 2 days before cataract surgery and it's a video from the doctor to let the patient know what to expect. And so far we're seeing a reduction in no-shows, and patients feel more comfortable before surgeries in terms of what to expect, and just they feel like they're being cared for as well. So that's been a great method of communication for us.
I could see that. Dermatology practices, Mohs surgery. I mean, I can see all the benefits of that piece. I mean, as we get all the feedback internally, and we have at Satisfied Patient, we're able to identify, trends and opportunities to help practices acting as a second set of eyes and ears. And, it's so funny in terms of, working together, a lot of the feedback is obviously things that are then being addressed you know, through the automation components, right? So, you know, you've got a lot of patients who have, you know, said this specifically, all right, well, let's address this. And the best way to address it is through, you know, X and Y. So
Yeah, exactly.
being very flexible is very, very good. I don't see any questions, but I don't know, Chris, if you can see any on your side, I don't see any here, but
No, but
I think
we
that's
can,
it.
yeah, if there are any questions following the webinar, you can reach out to, you can see Ryan at satisfiedpatient.com, or our email is webinars@vitalinteraction.com, and we'll send over a copy of this webinar to you as well.
Awesome. Chris, thanks so much. Always a
Yeah.
pleasure chatting with you, and look
Thank
forward
you.
to connecting with you again soon.
Thanks so much.
Thank you.
And
Bye now.
thanks everyone for attending.